friends, I hope you're all doing incredibly well. So in case you're wondering why I look like this, long story short, one of my dogs is a psychopath, so yeah. I was laying in between them and Rogan has a tendency to be a jerk to Oakley, and he kind of just like jumped on him, and being that I was in the middle of it, my face got stepped on. I think it actually looks kind of cool, not gonna lie. Part of me kind of wishes it was permanent. Like, it looks kind of like battle scars, you know? I don't know. I think I look kind of fun. But obviously I can't wear any makeup with it, so I'm looking kind of plain Jane today, but that's okay. Honestly, the best part of the entire situation was that my brother was here when it happened, and right afterwards, as I'm like blotting the blood off of my face in the bathroom, he comes up to me and he says, "You must be the wolf girl." And if you're a Twilight fan, you know what that's in reference to, and I just about died laughing, so that's kind of a new inside joke. But anyway, yeah, I hope it's not too distracting. It's the first black eye I've ever had, so that was fun, but it happened on the same night of the Tyson-Paul fight, so that was kind of funny. So yeah, good times. But anyway, I'm feeling very good today. I'm feeling energetic. I am still taking the Magic Mind shots that I mentioned in my last video. I'm at the point now where I just like can't live without these things. Before I got my most recent order, I had my very last bottle on a day that I had to have like an emergency dentist appointment. I was like dying of pain. It was so horrible, and it was my very last bottle that I had that morning, and I can't even begin to explain to you how thankful I was that I had it, because my anxiety was through the roof. I had to have like a stress ball, and I was like physically shaking in the chair, and I cannot even imagine how much worse it would have been if I did not have these, because as I mentioned in my last video, these have helped so much with my anxiety. So I'm just very grateful to still have them and to have had them during that experience. All that to say, I'm still taking these. I still highly recommend them. They will be linked below. Very much in favor. Please check them out if it sounds like something that you'd be interested in. So today I thought it would be fun to go in and read 1-star reviews of all of my favorite books. Well, some of my favorite books. And if you do not have a sense of humor, maybe this isn't the video for you. Because while I do believe obviously everybody has their own opinions, everybody has their own beliefs, like we all have different brains that work different ways and see things differently. With that said, I'm going to be telling everybody who rated my favorite books as 1 star that they are wrong. Okay, so I'm just gonna get that out of the way right now. So I'm gonna hop into Goodreads, which I actually don't use Goodreads really anymore. I have switched over to Fable pretty much completely because it's cuter. I have 2 ultimate like all-time favorite books. They're kind of tied for being like my absolute favorite, but they're so different that it's kind of difficult to pick between them. So we're gonna start with Once Upon a Wardrobe, which, like I said, my favorite book. I love it so much. Okay, I'm seeing a few 2 stars. These people are wrong. They're wildly incorrect. Gosh, it's so weird to like see people say bad things about something you love. It's like, what? How did you even get to that conclusion? I don't understand. Okay, I finally found one. That took a hot minute, which is good. Okay, also, that is an Aldi box. Our cat loves it. We've gotten him so many like beds in the past, and he has never loved anything like he loves this box from Aldi. So it might not be aesthetic, but you know, it makes him happy. And when he's happy, he doesn't tear up my stuff. So anyway, so Once Upon a Wardrobe, if you've never read it, please do. It's a fantastic winter read. I love it so much. The only thing that I didn't love about it was that it is kind of like slow paced a little bit in the beginning, but overall it's fantastic. The long synopsis short, Megs is a student at Oxford, and this is, I think, in the 40s, maybe the 50s. She is a student at Oxford. Her little brother is like deathly ill, like not doing very well, and he is obsessed with the story of Narnia, and he wants to know where Narnia came from, where the story came from. And at this time, C.S. Lewis is actually a professor at Oxford. So Megs, loving her brother so much, she decides to sit down with C.S. Lewis, quite a few times actually and get the story of where Narnia came from. And Megs is a very like mathematician, intellectual person, so she's not really understanding the answers that C.S. Lewis is giving her because he is obviously more of like an imaginative, dreamy person. So it's just fantastic. It's so good. You're gonna sob horrendously and it's beautiful. But it has dark academia vibes because she's at Oxford. It has a little bit of a romance in it. It has sibling love. It has found family. It has history. It has moral lessons. It has faith lessons. Like just everything about it is just so good and it's so cozy and I just I love it. Okay, this 1-star review is very short, so let's see what it says. There were some really good reviews on this novel, but I didn't have very many expectations for it and it did disappoint. There was not much plot and the sibling relationship between George and Megs was just a bit too sickly sweet for my liking. Girl, he's dying. Of course there is a sweet relationship between them. What? Okay, so there was not much of a plot. I feel like the plot, there's so much to it. So that's kind of a surprising way to look at it because like I said, when she interviews C.S. Lewis, so she like goes to his house and they talk in Oxford and they talk, but there's a ton of flashbacks. Like when C.S. Lewis is answering her, he's telling her stories of his life, of his time in the war, of his time with his brother, of his time, like just all of this stuff with Tolkien, all this stuff. I mean, I can almost kind of understand that review. I mean, that part of that review in the sense of like the plot is kind of like, I don't know, jumpy. I wouldn't say there's not much of a plot, but the relationship between George and Megs is too sickly sweet. Yeah, of course, the little boy is dying and she's like fulfilling his wish, of course. Oh, my dog can hear me getting all heated about it, so he's freaking out a little bit. I'm very happy to see that scrolling through all the reviews, it's like 5-star, 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 4, 5, 5, 5, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4, 2. Like there's a lot of really good reviews, so that makes me very happy. Okay, just for the sake of time and scrolling time, I'm going to just find a 2-star and see what this says. Okay, holy moly, this one is long and mean. Okay, are you someone who read Narnia once or twice as a kid and never gave it another thought? No. You might like this book. Are you someone who has read not 1 but 3 biographies of Lewis? Then this book is worthless. Oh my gosh. It is essentially a fictionalized account of Lewis's early life with the framing device of a 17-year-old university student trying to find out the inspiration for Narnia for the sake of her 8-year-old brother. It reiterates everything you already know about Lewis's life, conveniently whitewashing anything that would make him, well, human. What? It literally talks about his experience in the war. That's pretty dang human. Which leads to my next problem, how the book is written. Everyone except Megs talks in pseudo-philosophical tea towel sayings instead of normal human language. Lewis is always smiling cryptically and dropping some big wise turn of phrase meant to blow Meg's mind. One of the reasons this book is ridiculous is because I cannot believe there's an 8-year-old out there that precocious, and 2, I cannot believe there is a 17-year-old university student that stupid. I'm sorry, does she really not understand that authors of fiction make things up? Oh my gosh, what? The whole point of this is explaining why fiction is so powerful. Like the whole book talks about the importance of stories in our life and the importance of fiction. It's not a matter of her being stupid. It's a matter of that's not how her brain sees the world. Just like Padraig, her romantic interest, wants to be an author and he loves fictional stories, and for her, she sees things through a mathematical lens. It's not because she's stupid, it's just because that's not how her brain is wired. Like, what the heck? What a negative Nancy, ugh. Okay, well, interesting, but it's fine. I still highly recommend the book. I love it so much. So the next books, and I know that this can be incredibly controversial. This is a very, very, very controversial book. And this is one of those ones where I kind of understand why there are people who butt heads about it so strongly. With that said, I think that it's not for everybody. However, I think that if you're going to go into it, it's really important to not make your mind up too soon. I know there are a lot of negative reviews that are like, this happened, and it's like, okay, yeah, but if you got like a few more pages in, you'd see that like they fixed that or like that changed or whatever. So anyway, this one I might offend people. I don't know, but we're gonna risk it. Okay, so Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. Again, very controversial, but here we go. There are a lot of 1-star reviews for this book. I'm going to read the shorter ones because I don't want this video to be 7 hours long. So this book is about an 8-year-old girl named Angel who is sold into prostitution as a child, obviously, and she kind of grows up that way. When she is in her, I don't know if it's late teens or early 20s, I'm not quite sure, but Michael, who is our male main character, comes in and finds her on like walking down the street, and he hears God tell him that that is his wife and that he is meant to pursue her and essentially save her from the life that she is living. Because there's a lot that happens. It's very emotional and very graphic and very beautiful in my opinion. So this story is meant to be kind of like an allegory, not so much a retelling in my opinion, but sort of like an allegory to the book of Hosea, which is an Old Testament story. So let's get into it. Do not read No No No. This probably won't be a popular opinion, and I'm sorry, but here it is anyway. I do believe there is actually something wrong with this book. It's my personal stance that there's something morally wrong with getting so far inside the terror of a small child, even fictionalized, as she is led away to rape and prostitution at the age of 8. If you're in ministry and you're actually helping someone overcome this type of trauma, that is needed and sacrificial and wonderful, and I'm thankful. But reading anything like this as entertainment is problematic at best and repulsive at worst. There's something fundamentally wrong with this book being marketed as Christian fiction, and I'm not afraid to say it. There comes a point where the brokenness is so demoralizing to a reader that any story of redemption is not worth putting the imagery in your brain. This is not what God requires from us or even wants from us. Protect your spirit, your purity, and read something else. I normally do not star books I've chosen not to finish. What I read was actually great writing, but the content was disgusting. Irresponsible themes, offensive content. I tell people not to read it, in poor quality. I strongly disagree when she said that any story of redemption is not worth putting the imagery in your brain. I could not disagree more. I really could not. Like I said, if it's not your taste, then don't read it, obviously, but like, you read the Bible, then there's rape and slavery and kidnapping and abuse and all kinds of horrible things, and still that is something that we should read to see the redemption of nations, see the redemption of people, to see the redemption of mankind. And like I said, I don't understand that whole it's not worth it kind of a thing, because we are worth it, you know? Yeah, like I said, if it's too hard for you, then don't read it. But at the same time, it's surprising to me that Christians can have that mindset of it not being worth it when quite literally the entire Old Testament is full of this kind of stuff and ultimately leads to redemption. Somebody said that it's a Christian version of Twilight. Oh no, 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 no. This one was a really aggressive one-star read from somebody who's an atheist, so they already have a problem with religion in general, so I feel like that kind of already has a huge part of their rating. But it says, looking past the forced marriage, rape, beatings, and child rape described in the book, also past the flat one-dimensional characters, and by the way, stunning and physically beautiful, how boring is that, characters, not to mention looking past the horrible source material that is the Old Testament, I'm repulsed by the ideas that this book reinforces for women. Forced marriage, Angel agreed to the marriage. I believe she was actually laying down, she had just gotten beaten by her handler and she was just like ready to die. I think actually at this point she was making her handler angry on purpose so that he would kill her, because she was so miserable with her life. And Michael came in and he had, I think, previously already asked if she would like marry him, and she was like no, and then at this point she consents to it because she's like, I have nothing else to live for, you know? So I wouldn't necessarily say that was forced marriage because she agreed to it. She also was never raped by Michael. They did have intimacy pretty soon into their marriage, but he never forced her to be intimate with him. And with that said, I think the reason why he was willing to do it so soon in their marriage was because he wanted to show her that intimacy could be beautiful, because that is a huge theme in the book. Obviously, she has been forced into prostitution and rape since she was a child, and now he's trying to show her that like intimacy is a beautiful thing between a man and a woman in marriage, and it's okay to enjoy it and want it. Michael never like raped her in that book. I'm surprised that there's so many like reviews that say he did, because he didn't. I'm disgusted that this was written by a woman. I'm appalled that some people found this book moving, positive, and uplifting. Yeah, because her whole life is redeemed. She goes from being a prostitute and being raped and beaten and treated poorly to being married to a man who absolutely loves her more than anything in the world. And she also gains a new family, and she gains best friends, and she gains a beautiful new life where she feels worthy and loved. So yeah, I would say that that is very inspiring to me. The plot device of using these characters to represent God and his unconditional love that he supposedly has for his children was weak. Oh, wow! She runs away after being forced to work and take care of him. I wonder why she would run away. It's not because she was forced to take care of him. It's because she didn't feel worthy to be taken care of, because Michael was taking care of her. He was teaching her how to make her own food, because she'd never done that before. He was teaching her how to start a fire and keep a fire lit because she'd never done that before. And if she ever did get to a point where she was abandoned or left alone, she wouldn't know how to survive because she was never taught those skills because she grew up in a brothel. So no, he was not forcing her to take care of him. He was teaching her how to take care of herself. And she runs away because she feels unworthy of being loved because he's telling her so much about how worthy she is and how beautiful she is and how loved she is. And she keeps running away because she doesn't feel like she's worth it. So she finally meets a family who is willing to take care of her. She's in a good place, and then he comes back for her. For some unknown reason, goes back to him because she loves him. The worst part is the ending because she wants nothing more than to please him and bear him a son. Because he didn't give up on her! What do you mean? This book does nothing more than subjugate women. In my own opinion, so do gods and religions, but that's a different story for a different time. I could not disagree more. Jesus quite literally uplifts women more than any other religion in the entire world, but I digress. What positive message is there in this for anyone? Redemption, love, being worthy, friendships, being strong, taking care of yourself, taking care of the people you love. Be a good wife and devote all your time to making babies. I think we know there's more to life than that. I could not. See, this is one of those reviews where I'm like, I feel like you completely missed the entire point of the book. The entire thing. Because like I said, this whole book is about redemption and loving Angel, letting her know that she's worthy, that yes, she spent all these years in prostitution, but you're worth more than that. That doesn't determine your worth. And he takes care of her and teaches her, and she, like I said, she gains friends and family, and she learns so much. And it's just, I'm shocked that people have that opinion of that book. And like I said, if you don't believe in God, then yeah, sure, it might not seem like that great. There are even Christians who hate this book, and like whatever, to each their own, like I said, but I just feel like when I read negative reviews of it, I'm like, you missed a huge lesson in it. You missed kind of like the overarching theme in it, but okay. Those are my two favorite books of all time. And like I said, I understand that redeeming love is extremely controversial and everybody has their own brain, their own perspective of how they read it, and that's fine. But I feel like a lot of people misunderstand. Like I said, there wasn't any part in that where Michael like rapes her or abuses her, and yet there's so many people that say that he does. So it's like, what is your definition of certain things? You know what I mean? Anyway, I think it's gonna get less controversial from here on out. Those are just my two favorite books that I feel like can be. So okay, so next book is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I loved this book. This one is kind of hard to explain, but basically our main character Dora has half a soul because half of it was stolen when she was little by a fairy. She grows up and she lives with her cousin, and her cousin is being sent to London to find a suitor, so Dora goes with her, in which it was unknown to Dora that her cousin was actually bringing her there to help her find a magician who could help her find half her soul. Sounds kind of confusing, but it's actually very fun. So I guess this one might be kind of controversial too, because again, this is like depends on your perspective here. So this one said, I read this whole book hoping that eventually we'd learn that Dora's half soul had nothing to do with her autistic traits, and she and everyone around her would learn to love her as she is. I was severely disappointed. This would have been a great book had the entire plot not been centered around the suggestion that neurodivergent people only possess half a soul. I really wanted to love this book and I wanted to give it a high rating, but I can't get over it. So I feel like writing about any kind of issue, whether it be mental stuff or race stuff or gender stuff, anything, it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of a scenario, because it's like she wrote this book, part of it being, I believe the author herself is not neurodivergent, and so I believe she wrote this with like the allegory of half a soul and her being like autistic, right? And so it's like that's meant to be a very clever, beautiful way to look at it. And then people are going to be offended by it, you know what I mean? So it's like people want authors to write stories about things that matter, but then when they do, they didn't do it the right way, so then it's a problem. I feel like that's kind of one of the situations here too. And as far as like, we thought that by the end everyone around her would learn to love her as she is, they do. Victoria, for example, I think it's Victoria, is that her name? Or Veronica? I don't remember. Her cousin absolutely loves her for who she is with her whole heart, regardless of whether she has half her soul or not. And then same with Elias. Elias absolutely loves her regardless. Like, everybody does love her for who she is, so I don't really know where that part of the review is coming from. Like, literally a huge theme of the book is her and her cousin being absolute best friends and being loved for who she is. So I don't know. One of the other poor reviews was because they feel like the author didn't explain London accurately. So, okay. This one is funny. Unfortunate opinion, but damn, I just did not care. Fair enough. You know, that's okay. Plot was meh, romance was meh. I feel like the romance was really beautiful, especially at the end. Why should every innocent little book these days strive to turn itself into a raving, self-righteous socialist manifesto? Anyway, even if you strongly feel thus inclined, it is not a sufficient reason to write anachronistic and badly researched historical romances full of genre cliches, character inconsistencies, and plot holes. The pictures of social injustices could not possibly be more blunt and naive. How can we be all eating when there are people out there who are starving? I mean, like, you could ask that about our very own world at the same time. When has common sense become outrageous and populistic slogans a pinnacle of goodness? Too many whys, too much exasperation. Oh boy, I could get controversial with that comment, but you know, we're gonna chill for the rest of this video. This was my first like Regency era book, I guess, so maybe I'm just not educated enough to have an opinion on that, but to me it came off as very Regency-esque, almost kind of like a little bit of steampunk side notes to it, solely because there is kind of a magical element with Elias. But anyway, so we can do just one more book because I feel like this video is going to be very long, because I feel like I talked about redeeming love for a hot minute and I'm sure that was probably quite controversial. So I'm just going to read one more, maybe from, let's do Six of Crows, because I am just over halfway through and I can already tell that it's going to be like one of my favorites for sure. The series in general, I think. I've heard that Crooked Kingdom is even better, so I'm very much so looking forward to that. Okay, so 1 star. At this point, I just love to hate this book. I'm really sad that I wasted so many hours in this book. I really should have gone with my gut and just put it down, but no, everyone kept telling me to keep going and that it gets better, and guess what? It doesn't. I honestly can't figure out what people are in this book. Not only is the plot as dry as a bowl of oatmeal, but the characters, and the ones I was told were amazing, were so flat and boring. So much so that I literally DNF'd this 4 times. I hope that others won't make the mistake of wasting their time like I did. That's so funny because I feel like the characters are so individualistic in Six of Crows. Like, I feel like I could read a paragraph in that book without it saying who says it. Like, I could read a paragraph and I would be able to tell you which character said what, because they're all so individualistic. Like, Kaz has his own personality, Nina has her own personality, Jesper definitely has his own personality. Like, I find that to be very interesting, and this is just another like example of how all of our brains work so differently. And I don't know, maybe it's because I love the show so much, so I was able to see the different character personalities so realistically there. I feel like they all have their own strong personalities, so that's kind of surprising to me. I'm going to start this with saying I'm a romance reader. Not many books that don't have any romance can interest me. Now, with that being said, I have read many books before with absolutely zero romance and liked them. This seemed like a very liked book by others. That's why I decided to give it a try. I tried to give it a try up until page 220. I swear at times I feel like I wasn't even reading English. I did not read Shadow and Bones or whatever the series before this is, so I didn't know the world building, and I didn't know it was like needed to read those books either. I've never read Shadow and Bone either, and I don't feel like it was really necessary to read that before that. Anyway, you get thrown into a fantasy world with zero explanation behind it, so by page 220 I still didn't know if certain words were people's names, place, meanings, or things. That's very surprising. Like I said, I've never read Shadow and Bone, and I didn't feel like that at all. Again, maybe it's because I've seen the show, but at the same time I feel like I was learning so much more in Six of Crows than I did in the show. I actually just restarted the show a few days ago and I'm like, oh yeah, hey, that's in the book. So I don't know. I feel like I'm of the opposite belief of this one. Like, I feel like the book actually made me understand a lot more, and I feel like anything that's not in English, it's italicized in the book, so I feel like that should make it kind of obvious for like the different languages and religions and stuff that they bring up. But anyway. I was gonna do one of these for Autumn by the Sea, but I only saw one 1-star review, and she was upset that there was a scene that the main character went into the bathroom when a man was showering, and she was very offended by that. So that's the only one that I could find, so I was like, okay, wait, maybe we'll just skip that one. So there we have it. Those are 1-star reviews for my favorite books. Like I said, I think that for Redeeming Love, that's going to be the most controversial one, which I understand, but I also don't understand. so I feel like a lot of people who give that book a negative review have kind of religious bias against it because it's Christian. There are definitely Christians who hate it as well, and like I said, to each their own, but that's just, it's very surprising to me how people can see that book in such a negative light when it's quite literally about redemption and love and character growth. I don't know, my brain just doesn't work like that. I know I said at the beginning of this video, like, if you 1-star reviewed any of these books, you're wrong. Like, funny, haha. With that said, I know everybody has different perspectives. Their brain works differently. We see things differently. If you hated these books, that's fine. I wish you could see it from my brain to make them amazing, but you know, that's okay. I probably hate books you love too, okay? Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I love you so dearly. If you watched the whole thing, leave a little crow emoji just because we ended on 6 of crows. And again, check out Magic Mind in the link below. I'm loving it so much and I hope you will too. Thanks so much for spending your time with me and I will see you in my next video. Bye!